And now continuing, you have the ability to have the alerts, and we're going to be doing updates to this indicator as I perfect it more and more. We're going to change this from triangle to arrows, so we'll get consistency, because these are arrows, not triangles. In the beginning, we used triangles. I don't like them. I said go to these. So we'll get all this cleaned up in time. You have the ability to set the color, the size of the arrow, and so on. I don't like price markers on. I can't stand seeing them. You might, and so on. But all these are outputs. The position reporting of the upper and lower side of the river indicator, and when you get a symbol, are all reporting. Now, one thing that we need to add to this is audible alert with wave file for when we get these. That was supposed to be in there, and the programmer basically, I was pushing him to get it out the day he was doing it, and he forgot to put that in there. So we'll get that added, because I know very soon here in the next couple of days, I'm going to play around with a different slope measuring mathematics. And if I like the way that I can adjust the slope to change the positioning of when a signal fires off, then what's controlling this in the code will change if I can find something that's more efficient and more precise. But it's pretty darn good right now, but I think I can make this baby like spectacular, where this will become like a prominent indicator like for a long time. So anyhow, let me go into kind of what we're trying to accomplish. Why is there an arrow where there is? What we're looking at how does price change in a pivot point, meaning a point where price pivots and changes directions. So it pivots, changes directions. It comes down, makes a low pivot, changes directions, makes a pivot, changes directions, and so on and so on. We're analyzing, and what I was trying to capture, and I don't think we're perfectly there yet. We're in the ballpark, but I want to get in the exact seat, is crisp, sharp transitions at a pivot. So the pivots might be, pullback and lift in uptrends, or kickback and drops in a downtrend, or they might just be a total, reversal of one side of a range to the other, and so on. What I'm trying to capture, and I watched this happen live, there's a lot of times in these instruments where price comes and has a very reactionary move and just leaves that, that point with some authority. Here was like, one where it comes down and it just leaves that area with no indecisiveness. Now here's a market that initially had some authority as it was reversing off that pullback, and then it chopped a bit. And then this one, the reason there's no symbol here is if you were to watch this took a long time. It was a lot of like microcycling before it rolled over. So the indicator is definitely trying to find a certain type of price action where, in this case, it came down and then right away left and left that area of price. Ones that have what I call crisp, sharp reversals. This is a textbook one. Comes up, price got slapped down and right away ran away from that area. And what that means is there's a lot of energy and reactivity in price at those areas. So in my mind, I'm about 85% of where I want to be for having an indicator that can recognize those particular type of reversals. 2-3 weeks from now, I think I might be at 92 to 95%. By the end of January, I think I could be at 97%. Will I ever get to 100? Who knows? But I don't need to. I just want to get to where the predominance of reversals in price at pivot point areas, that I can grab in about 97% of them. And that's strong, because the nice thing is in those locations of price, if I can get price to move away from my signal rapidly, that means I can use a tighter stop, and the initial movement of price away from my signal can help me get my stop to break even plus quick, so then I'm in a free trade for if it extends and continues, or I get one where it slaps and then it goes again. The market had to push one more time higher before it finally reversed. So again, this is a conceptual indicator. It's a concept, meaning it's not like completely figured out yet, but what I'm seeing so far, I'm massively encouraged. And I'm really getting like an inherent, really strong feeling about what I'm finding so far on testing a range of settings, even with the threshold setting in the indicator not exactly doing what I want yet for the way that it adjusts the sensitivity on the slope style. So anyhow, I just want to make that very clear, that this isn't like something I've had for 10 years and I've got it all dialed in. We're not there yet. But the reason I'm putting it out is I have a very strong feeling this could end up being a very significant indicator with some very significant capabilities for the intraday scalper. And since this whole program is about building a cache of advanced trading tools, I want as much feedback as possible from those working with it and seeing what you're finding out to add to what I'm finding out, so I can accelerate the development of the indicator to its ultimate form. But I'm liking what I see so far, and we're just getting started with this. Now, as far as the strategy goes, let's go into the strategy, and the strategy is reading the up and down arrows. Okay, we'll go to PTI, which stands for Prop Trading Indicators. We'll go to the River Strat. We'll highlight it and add it. Kind of a good way to start if you are going to, you play around with some settings, whether they're mine or you take mine and tweak them a bit, or go up in time frame a little bit to minimize more noise of price, or go down, whatever you end up doing. I would suggest, sticking with something that's like micro contracts, very low position size. And another thing that I'm trying to do, with the entire program, get to setups that are automated, and then you can trade them manual discretionary if you don't want to trade them automated, that can get a trader in, get their daily profit objective, and get the heck out of the market as fast as possible. Not that you should be scared of trading, but that it adds to the long-term consistency of what you're doing, since trading is a marathon. So you can go out day after day, grab a chunk of change out of the market, and then make those prop firms send you money week after week, and be hyper consistent in what you're doing, and then grow the revenue dynamically by adding more and more accounts with trade copiers, but doing something that's so repeatable day after day after day. And then, we do have data feed outages. We do have lots of odd rules at some of the prop firms, consistency rules or other types of rules. So, my whole mindset is get traders something where they can go in on the predominance of their accounts, grab a quick chunk of change each day, grab that daily profit objective, get done quick. That way you minimize your exposure to, unscheduled news hitting the market, or, trading too long in the day, and you kept trading to the point where there were suddenly data feed issues or maybe trade copier issues. It's just like, when everything's good, the market opens, your data feed's working, go get your hit and get out and be done for the day, and then, do the next thing the next day and the next day. So it's like, do you want to go into the fight in the ring and fight for 10 rounds to win, or do you want to go in and win in a half round with the TKO? Just go in, knock the guy out, and get out of there. That's my mentality with the prop firms. Now, could you take some accounts and take the river on a higher time frame and go work it where you try to let it run all day long and maximize return? Sure, you can. But for the predominance of your accounts in the beginning, it should be about creating a consistent revenue source that you can easily go vertical and grow dynamically by adding more and more accounts, not having to do more work each day per account. Just do the same thing on one account that's hyper consistent, but have your trade copier copying out to more and more and more and more accounts. So in other words, you're scaling by going wide, like adding more accounts, but you're doing the same thing. You're trading on a master account, whether that's an eval account, whether it's a demo account, or whether it's a personal brokerage account. That's your master account where you're running the strat. Then you're talking out trade activity through a trade copier to any live or funded account. Now, if the prop firm says, hey, we don't mind you trading automated, then you can trade, you can trade the automated right on that live account. And I have a specific video about this I think it's in the prop firm area room in Discord. And it's really important to know the right way to trade and copy out to automate or to a live or PA or funded accounts, so you don't ever get them disqualified. But for this particular time frame, let's just hit the time frame real quick. I'm on Unirenko here. I'm on a 10, 50, 115. Whenever you trade automated, I suggest you have at least 5 days to load. Always, always, always on every chart you ever build and you ever put any of my indicators, or, what I'm working with here in the programmer with proptradingindicators.com, always, always, always put default 24/7 here. I don't like break of end of day. I turn that off. And for me on price mark or where at trading hours, I always put transparent. I don't need to see the end of day marker. But that's the time frame I'm on. I'm on a Unirenko, but so I would suggest just playing with that right now. Give me a little bit of time, and I'll continually do update videos in the training section for the river as I keep gaining more knowledge. And we're probably going to do an update to the indicator here pretty quick and see if the new mechanism for measuring and adjusting for slope works better than this. Okay, then let me get back into the strategy settings. So let's go ahead and add that again. And, just kind of on this particular time frame for this instrument, a micro M&Q, maybe go like 250 stop. I always like to put a target way far away. Why not? You can always move the stop on the chart. And then break even threshold, I've been using 170. So when the market goes 170 ticks in the money, my stop will go to break even plus 5. I don't use any trail stop yet. Don't need to. Leave it on signals, show historical orders. And then here, I typically start looking for trades at 0832 U.S. Central Time. And then, I'm rarely go past 11 a.m., but I just been putting in 11:30. And I enable it, otherwise the time window won't work. And then it's very important, whatever your settings are in your chart, to make sure you have those settings set in your strategy. So I'm not using static bands. So here I have 12. Plot the river. I do not want to plot it because I already have the indicator plotting on the chart. If I put plot, this will plot the indicator from the strategy, and the indicator is already on the chart. So it's like I got two plots stacked on top of each other, and I don't need that. And then let me just real quick, and then basically whatever I just showed you for the settings for the indicator on the chart, you want to make sure those are matched here so that the strategy is doing exactly what you had on your chart for indicator setting standpoint. So whatever they were, and we'll go verify what they are again real quick. Enable triangle alerts. Doesn't make any difference because I'm not plotting the indicator. And then let's see here. Let's just go through and make sure. Oh yeah, days required to trade or bars required to trade. Always make sure that's 10 or less. 1 through 10 is fine. And the rest of the stuff I always just leave at default. Like I'm not trading into the exit or the session close, so I just leave everything default. I'm always done. It's rare that I'm still trading anything automated past the first 2 hours of the U.S. cash session. Okay, so now the exact settings that you would put in your strategy must match your indicator on your chart. You'll have a mismatch between what's actually happening and where you'll see like an arrow here, but there's no entry. And then here where you don't have an arrow, there is an entry. And you're like, what's going on? Well, the settings you have here are completely different than what you're watching on your chart. So the settings that would go there in the strategy would be exactly what you have set in your indicator. Yeah, I thought it was 2.5. So 12, 2.2, 5, 7, 2.5. That's exactly what you want on your strategy. And then you want to make sure you enable the strategy. So you want to go in after you've added the strategy. Maintain all those settings I was just talking about. And then this was a 2.5. But when you have all your settings set up, and I think, what did I have that one on? A 4 or 5 bar? The key is when you get everything set so it matches what's on your chart, you have to enable it. And when you hit OK, it'll calculate as it's plotting a few set of bars. Then boom, it'll post the buttons that are part of the automated strategy up on your chart, and you're enabled and ready to go. Now I'm going to turn this off because I don't want it to suddenly start trading automated here. I'm just to be safe. This is important too. Let's say you get in an automated trade. The automation has you in a trade. Let's say the automation puts you in a long trade right here. It's got some sort of stop down here, and the market's in a trade. If you go, let's say you were trading like 2 MNQs, and you go and you try to like blip one out and let one run, you're gonna deactivate the strategy. Never ever do that. Let the strategy play out. You can move your stops and targets that are sitting there, on your chart from what the automation is running. You can click on those and move those. You don't want to get rid of them, but you can move them. You can change their position. That will not screw up the automated strategy. If you try to thin out or scale out some of your position size, that will screw up your automation. So do not do that. What you need is let it play out, and at any point that you just want to be done with the trade, go click on that flatten button. The flatten button will cancel out the trade, or it'll flatten it. It'll get rid of any stops and targets that are resting, and it'll leave the strategy on as long as the strategy button says on. So hitting the flatten button won't turn off the strategy. It'll just cancel the trade you're in. So the other day when I was testing this, I was letting it get me in trades, and it would start running, and I would just hit the flatten button. And then later on, it would catch another trade and be running, and I hit the flatten button. So it would get like 70, 80, 90 bucks in the money, and I just hit flat. So I was just grabbing little chunks of money out of each entry that, where the trade ran in my intended direction almost right away. And I was just testing the mechanics of it to make sure it was working. You can go long only mode or short only mode. I'm very likely not going to ever use that for this strategy unless, the market's at some key level and I only want to be short, some key resistance level, maybe for the first trade. That's very advanced stuff. I intend to use it like long and short mode, but we put those options in there so traders would have those options available. Okay, I'm going to go in and remove the strategy just so it's removed. Anytime I'm done trading on the day, I actually completely remove the strategy from my charts. I don't want any accidental, fully automated trade activity going on. So that's just something I've learned over time. On-off buttons are fine. I remove the strategy at the end of every day. I do not have a single automated strategy attached to any chart. I can't tell you how many times I've been burned because I leave a strategy on, and for whatever reason, my mistake or something odd, technically, a trade goes off uncommanded. So I don't need those problems. Especially on my master accounts, they're copying out to a lot of other accounts. I don't need any, errors like that. So that's where we're at with the river. There'll be much more content ahead. If you got questions at any time on anything or have technical issues, always send me an email to info@proptradingindicators.com so I can follow up with you and we can track it down. But there you go. That should get you up and running on the river. I'm going to continually keep adding content as I expand my range of settings. I'll keep sharing more. And I'm about to start testing a new version of the river on my end with that threshold adjustability handled a little bit differently. And in the end, whichever one I like the best, which I feel will work the best for us to dial in, then we'll make we'll update the indicator. And anytime I put an update to an indicator, add anything new, I'll always go make a post in the main room. So always keep following the main room and going and looking at any content that you might have missed, because a lot of time frequently I'm making announcements and talking about, hey, I just posted an updated item in the downloads room, or hey, I just put something brand new in the downloads room, or hey, I just put some important new training in the training room, and so on. So there you have it. The river indicator and the river strat. I'll rapidly accelerate this to get it to its end point of full potential. But start here and use the settings I gave you now as a starting point, and then I'll build upon this in the final days of 2025 and into that first week of January. And I would venture to say by the end of the first week of January, I should have some really good sets of settings, not just on the NQ, MNQ, but gold, Bitcoin futures, MES. And I will tend to give out the micro settings, and they're not hard then to take those and go get the settings for the bigger contract. There's not really a whole lot of difference, but I'll shoot a video one day on that process. Like if you get settings on a micro, how you can use those settings to trade the full contract. So there you have it. If you have any questions, let me know by email, and we'll keep working on this to get it to its ultimate, most perfect form.